Grip socks are great, and now they're even better with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Better fit, moisture wicking, amazing comfort, and all the extra grip you need. Choose from 10 different colors for just $16.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
So here's the situation. You love the new Laceless X Speedportal Plus from Adidas, but unfortunately don't have $280 to drop on a single pair of football boots. What should you do instead? Well, Adidas would like you to purchase this, their cheaper alternative, the X Speedportal.3 Laceless, a similar idea in terms of being a laceless speed boot as part of the new Speedportal lineup, but retailing for significantly less at $100 rather than $280. For those doing the math at home, that means you could buy almost 3 pairs of these for 1 pair of these. But here's the thing, just because they're cheaper doesn't necessarily make them a good value, and it certainly doesn't make them a good pair of football boots, especially given how many other options you have for around the same amount of money or less. Which is why in today's video, I'm gonna break down whether or not this is legitimately a solid alternative to a very expensive laceless speed boot, or a football boot that is totally overpriced in its category and one to avoid entirely. So if you're interested in learning more, including how they fit and feel on feet, please stick around. And if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can get them below their normal retail price by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the review page on my website, which will be the first link down below. And really quickly, if you find the video helpful, drop a like and make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already for reviews of all the latest football boots of 2022. Now, just to be clear on what I've already said in this video, you do not need expensive football boots to play well or better. Whether it's these or the more expensive models, your abilities are going to be on you and not the football boots on your feet. With that said, I do think football boots are a very important piece of equipment, and some are certainly objectively better than others. This is a football boot that I believe is not objectively that great. And to start on a positive note, I actually think this is one of the better laceless designs we've seen at the $100 price point from the Adidas brand, because quite honestly, over the years, there have been some abysmal options that unfortunately people buy simply because of the fact that they're laceless. And again, circling back to it's the player, not the boots, you can have a really poor fitting pair of laceless boots and still perform well and actually like the way that they feel. But coming from the perspective of somebody like myself that has tried these and a bunch of other options at the same price point that are currently available, I just don't think that even with this above average laceless design for football boots at this price point, that they're worth the $100 that Adidas is asking. The upper is what Adidas describes as a coated textile material, where you can see it's basically like a fishnet mesh material with a solid mesh underlay and a little bit of kind of like a nylon material lining the inside. And then of course your polyurethane coating on the surface that gives the boot a little bit of texture because of that mesh base that you have. But overall, feels pretty normal, it's pliable, it's fairly sock-like, but definitely not as premium as what you're gonna find on the more expensive models. But as far as takedown model textile uppers go, this one I would say is pretty decent. The laceless system is made from a knit material, as you can see, and has actually been finished off pretty cleanly. The overall shaping of the laceless system isn't too far off what you're gonna find on the high-end model. However, the knitted material that they've used is significantly cheaper and just has a lot more elastic to it. It doesn't stretch quite as much, which is actually a good thing for the sake of overall lockdown. And I was surprised at how tricky these are to put on. There is a significant amount of tension from this laceless system, even more so than what you'll find on the top end model. So I actually like this laceless system, even though I'm typically not a fan of the fully exposed knit material. The shape, I think they nailed basically from the heel forward. I think the boot fits really well, especially for a takedown model. But what really lets down this football boot, and we'll talk about it more during the on-feet portion of the video, is the super shallow fit of the heel. This is one of those football boots that, because of the shape and the depth of the heel, it feels like your heels are always popping out. It feels like they're slipping around, and honestly, it feels like if someone stepped on your heel in just the right way, the boots would fly right off your feet. No football boots should feel like that, especially boots that retail for $100. And for those that don't know what I mean by a shallow fitting heel, effectively it means that the inside of the football boot is applying pressure to a higher point on your heel than you would typically find. You want it to kind of grab from the bottom of your heel and almost feel like it's contoured around. This feels like your heel is kind of sitting up here, and there's only a very short section at the back and the sides of the football boot that are containing and holding your heel inside of it. It's something that has plagued Adidas takedown models for as long as I can remember. It's even an issue in the $150 Speedportal.2. I don't know why they haven't fixed it, and this, I think, is one of the worst examples of this really shallow fitting heel, especially when paired up with this laceless system that, again, for $100 is just shocking. You of course have a low cut design that's consistent with all the Speedportal models. You're gonna find kind of like this mock carbon fiber material for the speed wings or speed blades or whatever they want to call it. It's basically just there for the sake of design, because the internal heel counter is really what's providing all the structure at the back. The heel lining material, there's a ton of padding, but it just has awkward amounts of pressure, and of course has this really cheap lining material that, again, I don't think should be found on a $100 football boot. And then the insole, which is fully removable, again, pretty much as cheap as it gets, with this mesh liner on top, and it's made from a single layer of this flat foam. It's not even 3D molded. As for the base of the football boots, aesthetically, it's not that different from what you'll find on the more expensive options. However, it is quite a bit different in terms of materials used and feel. The stud plate itself is much more flexible overall. It doesn't have that same spring back effect, and you'll notice the visible carbon fiber pattern in some of the windows highlighted in black. However, it's not real carbon fiber like you'll find on the 0.1 and Plus models. It's just plastic with a carbon fiber pattern kind of etched into the surface for the sake of cosmetics. So this is an entirely plastic sole plate, which is not necessarily a knock against the boots. It just feels like a normal sole plate, which, again, kind of what you expect at this price point. And then as far as the FG stud pattern is concerned, that's been updated with the rest of the Speedportal line, where it's kind of the same layout we're used to seeing from the Adidas brand. They've added this one chevron stud kind of in line with the front too, so you get a little bit more bite when pushing off in a straight direction. And from a traction standpoint, it's the same as the top end models, given that it is the exact same stud pattern. Really solid overall. Which brings us to the weight, where given the fact that this is supposed to be good value for money, surely there shouldn't be that much of a weight difference between the $100 option and the top end $280 option, your alternate laceless model in the Speedportal lineup. Both in the same size 9.5 US. We'll start with the top end Speedportal Plus, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.9 ounces, the equivalent of 196 grams. As expected, very lightweight. Pull those off the scale, and we'll throw on the Speedportal.3 Laceless, and you can see that they weigh in at 9.3 ounces, the equivalent of 264 grams, which is a gigantic weight difference, obviously in favor of the more expensive option, where this feels very lightweight and this doesn't really feel light at all. Not to say that they're heavy, but they certainly don't feel like lightweight speed boots. On feet is really where the laceless Speedportal.3, in my opinion, falls apart. There are some good things about it. I think the base shape that they've gone for is really good. You can see how closely it wraps my foot, even with the laceless design that, of course, doesn't have any adjustability. And as with these and any other laceless boots, the way that they fit you specifically is going to be very much based on the shape of your feet. Everyone's gonna have a little bit of a different experience. These seem to fit my feet quite well. However, the heel is just super shallow. And as a point of reference for those that regularly watch the video, you can actually see more of the grips on my Pure Grip Socks Pro that you either can barely see normally or not at all, even on a low-cut football boot. It just feels like my heels are about to pop out of these boots. And with Grip Socks, that sensation is better. The lockdown is definitely improved. It's certainly way worse without them, but even so, there's just awkward amounts of pressure, and you really feel the heel counter digging into the middle of your heel. Not necessarily in the middle of the heel counter, but right at the top. It just is an awkward sensation that I would argue is uncomfortable and feels incredibly unstable. This, for $100, is just unacceptable for a pair of football boots. And again, it's so surprising to me that Adidas continues to make the exact same mistake. As As far as width is concerned, they definitely don't have a ton of width to them. If you have really wide feet, these are not going to be a good option just based on how difficult they are to get on. There's not a lot of stretch to that laceless system. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So just like the other Speedportal options, if you are looking to order a pair, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, if we're comparing the $100 option to the $280 option, both of these football boots don't have laces. Both of these football boots offer great traction because they have the same stud patterns, and both of them look somewhat similar from a distance. Beyond that, they're two completely different football boots in terms of fit, feel, and overall experience, and certainly overall performance. Unfortunately, the Speedportal.3 Laceless suffers from the same issue that so many takedown models seem to suffer from, and that is a lack of any sort of relation between this and the more expensive options. There's nothing Speedportal about this other than those three things that I mentioned, and I'm not sure that those three things are enough to create a positive overall experience, especially for the $100 asking price, which is the top of the second tier price point from Adidas and any other brand. This obviously means that I don't recommend the Speedportal.3 Laceless. It's not to say that you couldn't play well in them, but for $100, they certainly are not the best bang for your buck, which means as an alternative, if you must stay within the Adidas brand, I really think the Copa Sense 0.3 is a solid option and retails for just $70, so $30 less than these and a much better pair of football boots. But if you're looking to stay in the speed category for around $100, at 85 bucks, I really think the Nike Mercurial Vapor 15 Academy is a solid pair of football boots, not just when you compare these two side by side, but in terms of how much of the DNA of that top-end Mercurial Vapor that gets carried over into this much less expensive option. If you're looking for something that legitimately feels like a pair of speed boots at a lower price point, this is just so much better than this.